Hi, I hope you're doing well. Now we are going to see what is an object and how to overload in class so we can instantiate different types of objects. If you want to learn more about .NET and C#, please subscribe and let's get to it. Okay, so first thing that we need to understand is that an object in any programming language is just a collection of properties and maybe functions that may represent something in real life. So in this project, in our example, we have an object of type vehicle. C# is a strongly typed language, so in order for us to have access to the properties and methods in the object, we have to define a class or an interface that tells what this object is going to have, the properties and the methods. So we have the class vehicle, and if we import this here and try to instantiate a vehicle just like this, now we have our vehicle object. And in this object, we have access to our methods and we have access to our properties. And that's what an object really is. An object is just a collection of properties and methods that represent something for us. In our object, we basically have a capacity and a max speed and methods here, which are built-in methods provided by .NET, but we could create our own methods inside our class. Whenever we say the name of the object and then we do a dot, we are accessing the properties and methods in here, okay? So in here we can do a vehicle.capacity and we can do a plus, which is an incrementation, an increment operation. This is the same as if I did equals and then vehicle capacity +1. But instead of doing this, we can just do plus. This operation will change the value of the capacity property inside the object vehicle. And in any object-oriented programming language, you will see this behavior. Usually people will define a class that when instantiated, it will turn into an object with properties and with methods that you can have access to and that represents something in the real world. But we will talk more about that in the future. But I think objects are clear, I guess. If you have any questions, please just ask in the comments. But that's it. We are going to keep the object instantiated like this. We are going to our vehicle class. And here, now we are going to talk about constructors and overload. So since .NET 8, we can do a primary constructor like this. And basically in here we can define anything that we want to demand to be populated when we instantiate a class. So let's say I have a property, a string property here, which is the brand of the car. And you can see that I get a warning here because we're basically defining a non-nullable property. And in this property, we basically need to make it required or mandatory to pass a value in the constructor, or maybe just define it as nullable like this. But we are going to make it mandatory, so you can pass a string brand, and down here we say this is going to get the brand. This is just a good practice. Anything that there is a parameter, we do it in camel case, and properties is Pascal case in C#. And this is the primary constructor. Now, before .NET 8, constructors were made this way. We just defined the level, the access level of the constructor, and we passed the name of the class. And this is a constructor. Now, we can't have the same constructor. I can't say like vehicle brand and then do the same thing. This will get us an error because this constructor is already defined. So we must do something different. And even so, even if I say float max speed and I pass it down here, like this, we still get an error. Oh, yeah, like this. Oh, sorry. Not like this. Sorry. And you can see that we still get an error because we need to pass the brand to the primary constructor, and we do that by this and brand. Now, this might be a bit confusing, but what we are really doing is just passing this brand to the primary constructor. That's really it. And this keyword is just referencing the class itself. So inside, we can even use this keyword inside here. If we do this dot, we are going to have access to the properties inside of the vehicle. And this is not really useful. Just if we pass the brand with the same name here on the parameter, if we have the same name, C# is case sensitive, so if we have the same name, it doesn't know what we are trying to do. So we need to be specific, and we need to say this class, I want to get the brand property in this class, and then pass this brand parameter. However, just like this works. So we have two constructors. We have the primary constructor that we only need the brand, and then we have a second constructor where we need the brand and we need the max speed. And what this enables us to do is when we instantiate this class, we can choose what we want to pass, if it's just a brand or if it is the brand and the max speed. So inside here, you see that back in the program file, you see that we are going to get an error, and that's because we are not passing anything. And in our error here says that the vehicle class does not contain a constructor that takes 0 arguments. You can resolve that by passing the values that you want, like the brand, we are going to say like Mercedes or whatever. And in this case, we are falling in the primary constructor that we did. So here on this string brand, we are going to get the Mercedes value, and here in the brand property of the object will be instantiated with the brand value Mercedes that we passed. But we can also use our second constructor by passing a Mercedes 200F, because it's a float, but we don't actually need it. Just if we pass some floating number here, then we need the F. In this case, when we say Mercedes 200, we are going to fall in this constructor passing a Mercedes and a 200.50, and then passing the brand to the primary constructor in here, and we don't even need this brand because it is already going to be passed here. So we pass the brand, we pass the max speed, the brand goes to the primary constructor, which passes in here to the brand property, and then the max speed is passed inside the constructor. So if we do a .NET run in here, you're going to see that the brand is Mercedes, the max speed is 200.5, and the capacity is 0 because we didn't pass any. Now we can pass a capacity, and when we instantiate an object, we have access to its properties, even though they are not required or not demanded in the constructor. We can still open braces and have access to the properties inside this class to instantiate the object. So we can instantiate the object with a capacity of 5. And this right here is the same thing as we did a vehicle.capacity equals 5. Pretty much the same thing, and we even get a suggestion saying that we can simplify this initialization. It's the same way that we did before, and this is the traditional way of doing it. If you want to populate non-mandatory properties, properties that are not required. However, if you want to use just constructors, you could do a third overload. We can erase this, and we can pass a third overload. We can just copy this. It is going to give us an error because we already have this, so we can do an int capacity and then capacity down there. And that's it. Now we have a third constructor that we pass the max speed and then we pass the capacity. We could even make this even more simple. We could even use the second constructor that we did with the max speed, so we don't need to pass the max speed down here. So we can do it this, and instead of just using the primary constructor, we can use the second constructor that we defined up there, and we can pass the max speed. And now we don't need the max speed down here. So what is going to happen here is that we are going to pass a brand, we are going to pass a max speed. The brand and the max speed are going to be passed to the second constructor that we defined, and .NET knows this because we have one constructor that has a brand and one constructor that has a brand and a max speed. So when we do it this and use and pass these values, it knows that it is meant to be this constructor. And then here in this constructor, the brand is going to be passed to the primary constructor that is going to pass to the brand property. And the second constructor will pass the max speed to the max speed property inside here, and the capacity is going to be handled in this constructor. I hope this is clear, but if you have any questions, please ask in the comments. But now this enables us to pass here a capacity of 5, and we can save this and run it again. And there we go, we have a Mercedes 200.5 and a capacity of 5. Another good thing to know is that we can also do overloads in methods, but we are going to see that later. We are going to see later on how we can do methods and overload them. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about this, please drop them in the comments. Give it a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.